Hey YouTube, we are back again this week for another video portion of the Daly Dose Sports Podcast. Hope everyone out there is doing well. Hope you're all staying healthy. Hope you're all staying on top of things in our crazy world right now. This week on the Daly Dose Sports Podcast video, we are actually talking about a little bit of sports news. There is a growing trend in the NFL that I want to discuss, something I noticed over the weekend, so let's jump in right now. I want to start off in the NFL. And I know that the NFL Hall of Fame game was like 2 weekends ago, but the NFL preseason really got ramped up this past weekend. We had a number of games. Most every single team played over this past weekend. And I'm noticing a trend in these games that I wanted to make sure that you are aware of so that you don't fall for the silliness that I know is being fed to you right now, wherever you live. It makes no difference. If you're hearing anything about the NFL right now, I guarantee you are being fed some nonsense. Right now, I am going to read to you some statistics from this past weekend's games, and I want you to see if you notice the same trend that I am noticing, because it's a little bit weird. I'll explain what I mean here in just a second. I'm going to give you some stats. The New England Patriots rookie quarterback Mac Jones went 13 for 19 for 87 yards as the New England Patriots beat Washington last Thursday night. Pretty good debut. In the Pittsburgh Steelers win over the Philadelphia Eagles, also last Thursday, Steelers backup quarterback Dwayne Haskins, he was 16 for 22. He had 171 yards in the touchdown. That wasn't it. Eagles backup quarterback Joe Flacco went 10 of 17 for 178 yards. He also threw a touchdown. Okay, some pretty good games here going. That's not all. On Saturday, the Chicago Bears beat the Miami Dolphins, and Bears rookie quarterback Justin Fields looked really, really good. He threw 14 completions on just 20 attempts, and he passed for a touchdown while running for another touchdown. The Denver Broncos blew out the Minnesota Vikings on Saturday 33-6, and Broncos quarterback Drew Lock went 5 for 7 for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. That wasn't it for the Broncos. Backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater was also 7 for 8. He had 74 yards, and he threw for a touchdown too. Not done. The Houston Texans blew out the Green Bay Packers 26-7, which is weird enough because we know the Packers and Texans probably wouldn't play that way during the regular season. But Packers backup quarterback Justin Love looked pretty good. He went 12 of 17 for 122 yards, and he also threw a touchdown. Then, in the Kansas City Chiefs 19-16 win over the San Francisco 49ers, Niners rookie quarterback Trey Lance, he was kind of hit and miss. He went 5 of 14, but he did have an 80-yard touchdown in the first quarter. Now, when you hear these stats, and if you watch these games, I actually watched probably 3 or 4 of these games, you can take them at face value, and you can say, man, all these quarterbacks are going to be really, really good this year. And believe me, the ESPNs and the talk radio and all the sports talk that you're going to be hearing, they're going to be telling us how Justin Fields is already ready to start. And Mac Jones is already going to be a superstar this year. And Drew Lock has finally figured things out here in Denver. And Justin Love is fully capable of taking over for Aaron Rodgers if he would just get out of the way and let him take over. That's going to be a piece of cake. You can listen to that nonsense, or you can think for yourself and say, well, maybe, just maybe, these quarterbacks were playing against third-string defenses that didn't have any sort of a game plan and that were just playing generic, bland, vanilla, nothing defense. Think about the fact that both Joe Flacco and Dwayne Haskins looked really good. Really? You sure? Are you telling me, after watching them for a number of years, they are both suddenly good? They both just figured everything out? I'm not so sure. Now, I am not saying none of these players can play. I'm not saying none of these quarterbacks are going to be good. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you buy into the hype that we're hearing after one preseason game, and now you're thinking these guys are all suddenly ready to be stars, then you probably aren't dealing in reality. And while I know that the talk radio headlines are going to be lighting up and you're going to have people saying, didn't you see this past game? This kid is a superstar. This quarterback is a superstar. The backup is a superstar. Whoever they might be, we need to be a little smarter than that as we watch the NFL preseason. We need to understand preseason is really, really tough to judge because game plans aren't the same. Players aren't the same. Preparation isn't the same. And even if you say, well, they had like 8 or 9 starters in the game, okay, but maybe that play found that one non-starter. And that's exactly where it went. And if that was the case, then again, we're not getting a realistic product here. I would bet this is all going to change, not even in the regular season. I'll bet it changes over the next game or two, even in the preseason. We'll start to see some of these guys crash back down to earth as they start facing more starters, as they start facing more of a game plan, as they start coming under more pressure. That's going to change things immensely. I know there's going to be a ton of talk this week about how great some of these young quarterbacks looked. There might even be some talk about how good some of the older quarterbacks look. Did you notice they all looked pretty good early on? Like most of the young quarterbacks, most of the quarterbacks that played in week 1, they all looked reasonably good. It's not an accident. It's because they face no defense. Don't buy into the nonsense. Don't buy into the hype. Do not forget I told you this because I guarantee these guys are going to crash back down to earth. Okay, YouTube, make sure you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast. This week on The Dose, we actually have a little more sports news to talk. I want to talk a little bit about college sports. A couple things going on over there, including possibly some college conference realignment that are very interesting I want to look at. Then, we're actually going to be joined by Daly Dose featured columnist Young Jimmy. He is going to come in. We are going to get his thoughts on Major League Baseball. Going to talk a little bit about the NFL, going to talk a little bit about college football, and of course we have to check in and just see how are things in college. How is writing for the Daly Dose? What's that really like? We've got a lot today on the Daly Dose Sports Podcast, so make sure you go over and you check out the rest of the podcast. I will leave a link here on YouTube in the comments for you, or you can just go over to DailyDoseSports.com and find the full podcast over there. Plus, you could actually see, Young Jimmy's articles. You can see some of the stuff I have up over there as well. So make sure you check out DailyDoseSports.com. Hope you all are doing well. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week.